Hello, Max NG7M, and this ad hoc, hopefully one-take video is dedicated to the unboxing of an RF-KIT B26-RF2K plus HF and 6-meter amplifier that I just took delivery of. And I didn't see a lot of high-res pictures, and I mean, not that I have put a ton of time in on the high-res pictures here, but I kind of documented the packaging and unboxing, which I thought some other hams might be interested in, whether you're in the States or in Europe or wherever you're taking delivery of your amplifier kit. So you probably already know a little bit about the kit if you've made it to this video anyway. And of course the credit here, and I'm sure there's many I'm going to leave out, but I primarily worked with DH3NAB Reinhardt, and I know also DL5NAM. Chris is heavily involved here, and probably others. But do a little research, go to the website. I've got my sophisticated presentation system here, which is called WordPad. I kind of joke about that in a lot of my videos. And so, again, we're going to be talking about the unboxing of an RF-KIT B26-RF2K plus, implying that this HF amplifier can deliver more than 2 kW of output. And so easily you're going to reach the US FCC limit of 1.5K legal limit output with the amplifier. It's a solid state amplifier built on LD MOSFET technology. And again, I'm not going to touch on a lot of the details there. My intent here is to do just some quick commentary as I rip through these pictures that I took, and you'll be able to find a link to the pictures. I have just a photo gallery on a website that I host, and you'll be able to view some smaller, medium size, or the original images, and they're just from an iPhone, but it does a nice job on the resolution. And in fact, on the desktop background here, as you can see as I'm recording my desktop here, and we'll get to the website, but as you can see there, if I turn off my video, you'll be able to see I've taken one of these pictures, made up the desktop background. So it's a cool looking kit from the inside. I'll just kind of make this up as I go, and we'll pretty much go from there. Get me out of the way down here, and let me just pull this up again, and I'll quickly touch on the websites that you'll want to look at here. And a couple other things I need to mention is there's some other YouTube videos out there now from W4 Echo Echo Yankee, I believe it is. And so if you go to good old YouTube here, let's see, and with my clicky keyboard, and if you just search for W4EEY, if I type that out, W4EEY, and let's see here. So you'll see his videos. He's got some good information on presentations that he's done on the RF-KIT, and I recommend that you look at those. I will be doing some additional videos. Clearly a difference here is I'm recording in 4K at 60 frames per second, I think 30 or 60, probably 30. I'll have to look at that again. But anyway, you'll be able to see some high-res detail in YouTube, hopefully, if you have the capabilities on your computer, or just go to the link in the description of the video here, and you'll be able to take a peek at the pictures and download the originals, do whatever you want with them, and hopefully it'll help some guys out that are going to go on the journey of building one of these kits. I mean, it's really more of an assembly. They're probably 95% plus already built. You'll kind of see that in the pictures. So the source of information here clearly will be 2 spots. You'll want to spend a lot of time here on the RFKit.de website, as in Germany. So this whole project originated in Germany, and I'll let you look at the information there. So the new B26-RF2K plus kit is what we'll be talking about here today, and there's some pictures there too. Just not as many as I wanted to see before I ordered the kit. And then the Groups.io forum you'll want to join, which you go to Groups.io, and The name of the forum is B26-PA as in power amplifier, I assume. There's a couple different groups there. The other one is for the image, for the Linux OS image. That's there's a Raspberry Pi 3 that's used in the amplifier. I'm kind of all over the place, but I'm trying to hurry and get to the pictures. That's really what I'm going to do here, and then we'll let you go here. And again, I'll follow this up with another video of the my progress as I put it together. I mean, there's not a whole lot of work to do, in a matter of a day. It's pretty clear you can get this thing on the air. Now, incidentally, I do in my shack here, spectrum analyzer. I've got I'm excited to do this once I get the amplifier put together. I've got a 30 dB 2kW attenuator and several, well, not several, but I've got an LP700 that we'll be able to do some testing of the amplifier on, and an LPA100. So what we'll do, hopefully I'll be duplicating a lot of the FCC, not the FCC, but the ARRL IMD tests, and we'll see the IMD artifacts, harmonics and things of the amplifier, and I'll see if I can duplicate the specs that have been reported out on the website. Some of that, so I like tinkering around with that kind of stuff too. So I'll make videos of that. That'll come later. We'll see how motivated I am to go into that. But anyway, on the go to groups.io, you'll find the name of the group. You join up, and I'll come back to this area in a minute here. So, all right. So I'm going to minimize this. Get me out of the way a little more so here, like way out of the way, I think. And let's get a browser here. The link to the website where I have the pictures, and I'll see if all these pictures will fit on the groups.io group too. We'll get them out there. I know we've got a limited number of amount of space out there to put all the pictures on there. But this is what I wanted to go through here today, and this would have been interesting to me. So I hopefully it'll be interesting to others. I started off, a little quick background here. I'll throw this up there. Whoa, here, maybe I ought to make that bigger. This business card here I picked up. This was the first time I'd heard about the amplifier. Well, I think I'd maybe heard about it, but I was at the Visalia International DX Convention back in April, and so I got excited, got a pamphlet, and I picked up Reinhardt's card. I don't think he was there, though, so I've been packing this around in my wallet. You can see it's kind of hammered, but I noticed that today, so I thought I'd throw that in there. And so this has led me to buying one of these amplifiers. And I've had a number of other solid-state amplifiers. I've had and sold an LS1300 from Ameritron. Right now I have one of 40 Tokyo High Powers that I sold. And the main amplifier that I've been using for the last year and a half is a SPE 2K FA, which is a great amplifier. The fit and finish is just beautiful. And so if you're familiar with HF and contesting and DXing, it's really easy to get obsessed with amplifiers. They're fun to play around with, they're fun to buy, and the RF-KIT is really intriguing because of the nature of it being, I know W4EEY kind of coined the phrase, a software-defined amplifier. So I'm excited about it. I'm very familiar with Linux and the Raspberry Pi aspect of it, the 7-inch touch screen and all that. It's really cool, right? So it's going to be really neat how this thing evolves over time. So let's just get into it. I ordered the amplifier, paid for the amplifier via TransferWise. And just to touch on that a little bit, I know right before I was going to purchase the amplifier, I had been exchanging emails with Reinhardt DH3 NAB, and Zoom was acquired, or PayPal got involved with Zoom, and so I thought, hey, that might be a better approach to exchanging euros for US dollars and get the amplifier paid. That was right when Zoom X00M, as an X-ray Oscar Mike.com, was announced, and I just full disclosure, I tried to send the transfer just without even really talking to Reinhardt, and it was denied, and so it just wasn't worth it to me. It looked like the transfer fees were very comparable to TransferWise, or maybe even better, but it just depended upon the um, day and the exchange rate between the US dollar and the euro. And so on any given day, it looks like TransferWise would have been a better deal. So I actually paid for the amplifier, and I had Reinhardt delay for a week or two because I was off on vacation. And so I think he shipped the amplifier. I got the label created on August 1st, and it showed up the 6th of this week. So today's August 10th, which is Friday. The amplifier was ready for me to pick up here in Utah, Syracuse, Utah, on August 6th. So it doesn't take long. That was over a weekend. And so I think you waste a day in customs, and it was like 2-day delivery through FedEx. So that gives you the background there. And at the time I made the purchase, I don't mind saying, without the parts that you buy on your own, as far as the Raspberry Pi 3 and the fans, there's only 4 things that you buy. Well, 5 if you count the cord. I was under $3,650 US. And so, I mean, the total cost is going to be, I just plan on, maybe 50 to 100 bucks above that, right? Depending on what fans you use, or if you have some fans kicking around. So right now, as of August 2018, for hams in the US, you should be able to get one of these kits delivered to you for under 3,700 bucks. But again, the dollar to euro exchange rate, and I work in the financial industry, so that was all kind of secondhand to me to do that. And I know a lot of guys are kind of nervous about that, but the TransferWise transaction was really nice, and I did the cheapest route possible, which was to do a bank transfer from my banking institution to a bank account with TransferWise. They then take care of the transfer to RF-KIT Reinhardt. So it takes a couple days, but relatively painless. So I wouldn't be afraid of it. It went real smooth, no problems at all. So, okay, and I'm babbling more than I planned on here. I'll just leave the video down here in the corner. Let's get the first picture up here, and hopefully these will be big enough here just for the video purposes. The original pictures are on here, and they're going to be probably too big here to almost see on video, just because of the resolution. So I'm going to go with the middle size. And again, the URL to these pictures, so you can download the originals and zoom in and do whatever you want, will be in the description of the video below. So just click on the link, and then you'll be hitting my web server directly. So here's what it looks like directly, and I'm going to go into maybe more detail than a lot of other guys would prefer, but hey, what the heck, I kind of like doing these videos. It's kind of fun in the high-res 4K mode. So this is what the box looked like, and again, I was out on business too, so I had to wait another 3 days till the end of the week to pick this up on Wednesday. It's been waiting at my FedEx location to pick it up, which is close to me, for 2 or 3 days. So hopefully I'll get around to doing some of the assembly and putting it together this weekend. We'll see how far I get. It's just been crazy with work and everything else. So this is what the box looks like. It's very well packed, and I wanted to show that in the first set of videos, or pictures, static pictures here. So, the total package weight here. I even forgot about some of the pictures I took here. It is 40 pounds, just a hair over 40 pounds if my scale here is good. And I think I got a shot of this in kilograms. So yeah, 18.155 kilograms there for those in the rest of the normal world that use the metric system instead of the US here, which is, don't get me started on that. So that gives you an idea of the weight as shipped. Okay, the amplifier ends up being somewhere around 32 pounds, if I'm not mistaken, maybe, give or take a pound US. Here's the dimensions of the package that's shipped. 16 inches wide. The length is 20 inches. You can see the metric there. I'm just going to stick with the US numbers because I'm tortured by that. And yep, it arrived on August 6th. I already talked about that. There's the shipping label. And the height is 16 inches. And I cut it open. So here, this is probably TMI, too much information for a lot of you guys, but it just shows you the attention to detail on the packaging. I just can't believe that this would ever get damaged the way that Reinhardt and team has packaged this up. The cardboard is like triple thick, heavy duty cardboard on the outside box. It's double boxed. And so then once you get to the inside here of the main box, there's just copious amounts of bubble wrap. There's 2 huge pieces of bubble wrap that wrap the inner box. So, hey, there's how thick that cardboard is. It's heavy duty. You know, there were a few, you know how it is with shipping, especially overseas. The box was in great shape, and there may have been a few little cuts in the box, you know, as it was moved around, but it looked great. You can see that first picture. Here is the bubble wrapped inner box out of the main box. It's kind of tricky to pull that out, and just another shot of that. And here I believe I've removed the outer wrapping. Now you've got more bubble wrap around the inner box, which is much smaller. So there you can kind of see how much bubble wrap is put in here. So the main box is pretty small. It's effectively the size of the amplifier, which you'll see later. So there's all the bubble wrap back in the main box. And there's the inner box. It's 17 inches, roughly the same size as the amplifier by, what, 8.5 inches. You see the metric there, by 12 inches. So, and it weighs this. So now here you can see the difference. There's in kilograms. So in pounds, there's with the outer box and all the bubble wrap, it's about 6 pounds. So you can do the math there on the original kilograms there, and I think, yeah, I've got a shot here. So it's 34 pounds to the inner box. Again, way too much information probably, but hey, what the heck, if you're going to spend this kind of money, it's kind of fun to see while you're waiting for the shipping or while you're trying to make a decision. I have no connection to RF-KIT, right? I'm just trying it out here, just a consumer. Okay, getting ready to cut open that, get to the fun part, and open up that the second box. Again, heavy duty cardboard there, and there's some bubble wrap on the top of the amplifier. So what you're seeing under the pink bubble wrap there is the cover to the amplifier, the aluminum cover there. So once you, that's just on the very top there. Pull that off. That's the top of the amplifier. And here, what I did in the inner box, I actually lifted off the cover inside the box. And you can see on this side right here, the only thing that was moving around in the box were the 2 packages of the cables. Again, do the research on the website. You'll know what I'm talking about. So you've got the coax that you'll need to complete the kit. For the, you actually make some cables in the manual. I'll touch on that later. You solder the coax to the PCBs and complete the kit. And then there's another bag that has some of the other cables, USB cables and stuff like that, screws for the case. Anyway, so I'm gonna rip through these pretty quick. Just some decent pictures. It's cool to see that RF deck here with the, I believe it's pronounced Amplion, the LDMOS FETs there. And oh yeah, here's a good picture of that. So the later versions of the kit of this year are now shipping with the BLF 189 XRA LDMOS, and I think they're rated at for continuous wave output at 1700 watts at the rated DC voltage. And so with 2 of these, right, it's clearly a nice design, and we're not going to be pushing these 2 LD MOSFETs hard to get the US legal limit of 1500 watts out under different modes. And then on 6 meters, I think it's rated around a kW. So here, I'll just kind of rip through these pictures as I talk here. If I think there's anything interesting, I'll stop. So good shot of the top there. Here's the front panel, which I end up removing. By the way, I have, hopefully I won't forget to do this, but W4YN makes a nice panel that you can purchase separately. Again, this is just a service that he does. I believe he's a happy owner of one of these amplifiers, and so I picked this up before I took delivery of the amplifier, and it'll look nice on the front there. About $75 for this full-size panel. And there's some pictures of this too in a different directory that I'll return to. Again, I'm just going to kind of rip through the pictures. You can kind of see the finish of the machining that goes into the aluminum front panel there. I'm going to go pretty quick. This is the 7-inch LCD touch display, power switch on the front. The bags that were they were kind of flopping around in there, but I don't think it, you know, they were protected. Everything in there looks great. I removed the panel for some pictures. Here's the back of the panel, the 7-inch LCD display. Close up, there's the HDMI connector that will go into the Raspberry Pi 3. And other side of that. Just kind of ripping through some pictures. I've got the amplifier on my bench now. The bottom, well, you can kind of see the finish with the aluminum and the feet to the amplifier. Front of the amplifier. Oh, back on that, I guess. Oh, there's a nice shot of the soldering that's in place on the RF deck or the pallet for one of the LDMOS fits. And some of these shots make great screen backgrounds, I think. So I may have to drop one of those in on my background. It's just a cool shot there of the BLF 189 XRA. A lot of this is redundant, guys, but I'll just plow through these. Back at the LCD touch screen again. HDMI connector, micro USB connector, which I don't think is used. Maybe it is. I can't remember. I've got to put this thing together. Okay, so here is a shot of the front of the amplifier with the front panel removed. So you see a good shot of the Arduino, I like to say Arduino 2560 that's part of the design. So it's a combination of that for the main control PCB here in conjunction with the Raspberry Pi 3. And this fan here, which appears to be a Noctua, a German fan, which is this, I believe this is 60mm fan, is attached onto a bracket that is on front of the switching power supply for the amplifier. So that half the air is kind of coming out into this area from this fan, and half the air is going down the power supply as I see it, right? So I haven't put the amp together, but just my observations there. And there's another shot of that, so you can kind of see the back bracket that they put together here for the switching power supply, which is nice. There's no switching. You can just plug it into 110 or 220, 240 volts, and I think it'll run all the way down. Maybe I'm thinking of another amplifier, but it might even operate below 100 volts AC, which you wouldn't want to do. I mean, obviously you want to run this thing at 220, 240 volts AC to get the most efficiency out of it. So, but you could, it's light enough you could haul off on a field day or something and then run a 110 and run at half power or something like that. So, okay, just a number of shots. The control board here, you can see all the multi-turn pots here that are used during the calibration process. I think these are the fan headers. There's been a lot of discussion on the fan headers when you put the kit together. I know you got to be careful and get the pins correct for the fans. The fans, you don't use the third control wire on the fan, or even if you buy a PWM fan, everything, the RPM on the fans it's all controlled by voltage as I understand it. So you just want to make sure and be careful because these are not keyed to get the positive and negative voltage right when you put those fans in. So I've seen that come up a number of times as I've done my research. Another shot of the Arduino there, and it gets programmed on the fly when the image for the Raspberry Pi 3 is loaded for the first time. And so some cool stuff going on there, right? You got this, it's an Internet of Things here. This is a IoT, Internet of Things a legal limit amplifier, solid state amplifier. Very cool stuff with a lot of potential going down the road. Just some shots underneath. This is the front panel right on the bottom where a lot of the control wires go next to the heatsink for the main RF deck and copper heatsink where that's bolted on. We'll see that later. There's another nice shot there. This is right where the Raspberry Pi will go. And let me, while I'm thinking about that here, well, there's some pictures later. I'm not going to pull it out. But I came up with a little idea to use a tight little aluminum case that I supplied that will encase the Raspberry Pi 3. And I already drilled the holes, and it'll fit right on the standoffs. They're right here. You can see the standoffs right here in front of the main intake for the main heatsink for the power amplifier deck palette. Okay, just some more shots here. Again, those fan headers that I mentioned earlier. Be careful and pay close attention to the polarity there, and just the positive and negative wires on the fans. And I've got some shots of the fans. I ordered the recommended fans. Again, the fan headers, close up of the calibration pots. Again, just some other shots here. Here's the amplifier up on the. I've got it on some wood blocks here. So this is the front of the amplifier up here with the front panel removed. There's the Arduino, and just the right side of the amplifier. Another shot of the control PCB, and this is a Cat 5 cable that goes into the controls PCB. Fan. I may have some of these pictures out of order because of rotating them. Just some other miscellaneous shots you can see here. I got to get my bearings straight here. So this right here is the antenna tuner. I believe I got the version with the antenna tuner, so it was already installed. And you've got the bandpass filters down here on the bottom. Yep. The right side, again, here's a good shot of the bandpass filters, and that's off the top of my head, the bandpass filters are 6 of them, right, for all the bands that it operates on. So some of them double up for like 17 meters, 12 meters, I believe. But it's the 5 B4 AGN. So his call sign, I can't remember his name, but I believe the design, his call sign's on the PCB for the design of the filters there. So not to be confused with the antenna tuner, which is on the top here. So okay, just some other shots kind of peeking inside the amplifier. I didn't see a lot of this. So you can see some of the boards where there'll be some soldering of coax coming from the antenna tuner in this case, right? It's going to be a little different if you don't have the antenna tuner. You can see the front of the filter board here, down below, just through the side. Another shot of that. Again, I'm just going to plow through those. Here is the top of the antenna tuner, and so on the left-hand side of the picture here, you can see the antenna port switching. So you have one input for your exciter or transceiver to excite the amplifier, and then 4 antenna outputs, which you can control programmatically or via the programming by frequency, I assume. Hey, I haven't got there yet. So nice shot of the PCB RF-KIT.DE and all the relays for the antenna tuner, and clearly this piece of coax is likely the bypass of the antenna tuner, I'm assuming. And right here is, I know there's been some nice design by the guys in Germany around the directional coupler here that's used to get a very accurate RF SWR meter inside the amplifier, which is pretty tricky to do. Not being a double E, but I understand that's pretty tricky. Moving on, just some close-ups here, kind of check things out. On this I didn't open up the I should have looked inside the little shielded box here for the directional coupler, and I noticed this piece of electrical tape was a little long, and I'm just cutting that off, tidied that up a little bit. But all the soldering and everything is that has already been completed is very clean, and professionally done. Not a lot of leftover flux, that type of thing. You can see right here. I mean, they did a nice job before shipping on anything that was completed that as far as I can see. All right, another shot of the directional coupler there. A pot for tuning. I think that's part of the calibration. And another shot of the switch relay off the back of the amplifier, right, with the SO239s. Give you a shot of that. This is looking down. Looks like the front front. I can't remember. Anyway, down here, this is obviously here's the 5B4 AGN stroke DH3 NAB. Reinhardt and the guy that did some design on those bandpass filters. This must be off the back of the amp, I'm thinking, or the front. It's the back, I think, because that's the USB connector off the back of the amplifier. So looking down the back of the amp. This is down the front of the amp. You can see my little can of denatured alcohol over there. Here you're seeing, I don't know, is this the part of the power supply, I assume, there. And then again, you can see the PCB for the filters. Just poking around, getting some shots in there without taking stuff apart. A little tighter there. Here's the back of the amplifier. Your exciter, 4 antenna ports, your keying, female RCA connector there to key the amplifier. And this is really cool too. The guys have included an RF monitor here, which is stepped down and attenuated the levels right of the output of the amplifier, so you can directly take this female SMA directly into like a spectrum analyzer, which is really cool. Now, when I test the IMD products, I'm going to do it with the actual external output at full power output with my 30 dB attenuator, and then step-in attenuators beyond that. I'm going to try to duplicate those ARRL tests and see what we come up with as compared to my other amplifiers. Well, hopefully I'll be motivated enough to eventually do those same tests, compare it to the 2K FA SPE, because that's kind of a good comparison there. And I likely will not be buying the L-Craft KPA 1500, which is obviously another excellent solid-state amplifier LDMOS technology there too. So the CAT interface here is a USB connection, and then you've got the automatic tuner auxiliary, and I haven't done a lot of reading on the details here, and then you've got the LAN port here. This one here is the band data input, I assume, the binary decimal encoded band data to control the amplifier so it knows which band you're on, I'm assuming. Let's see, here's some close-up shots of those parts of the panel. The plug here is supplied, the female plug that plugs in here. The consumer of the amplifier supplies the electrical cord, and your NEMA, I never can remember the 20 amp NEMA plug designation that would go on the wall here in the US anyway. This is the circuit breaker reset here on the power supply for the amplifier, and I think that covers the connectors in the back. Again, another shot of the RJ45 female connector there for the LAN interface. That goes directly into the Raspberry Pi 3. So what's crazy, I'm gonna digress here, but you got that Raspberry Pi 3 in there. Literally, you could be running like an email server, a web server, NNTP Stratum 1 time server on the Raspberry Pi 3 that's inside your HF legal limit LDMOS HF 6-meter amplifier. It's pretty crazy, right? You got this whole single board computer inside your amplifier, which is just really cool to see how this thing's going to evolve. And that's a big part of the reason for the video here and all the pictures, right? I'd really like to see this thing succeed going forward. It looks like it's getting some legs all over the world. Another shot of the finishing, the machining on the cooling vents and stuff there off the back. And here's a good shot of the back of the amplifier where this is the exhaust for the main heatsink for the RF deck palette. And you can tell that this shroud here, this 120 millimeter fan shroud here, was cut out from an old fan or something, I actually ended up pulling this out and cleaning this up a little bit with the Dremel. And then I'll put another fan shroud on here based upon some input from, I want to say it's a W6, and I'll try to remember to get to that as we get towards the end of the video. So as part of the kit, right, you put a couple 120mm fans in the kit and a 80mm fan too. And that is a cat meowing in the background. Some more shots of the back. Here we're back to the RF PCB, the palette here. This is the voltage input coming from the power supply, so the 50 volts with a heavy gauge wire coming in here. And you can see the solid copper heat sink that then is bolted down with these hex bolts here with thermal, TIM, thermal, I always forget the name of that, material like I assume they use something similar to what you'd have between a heat sink and a CPU. So hopefully the guys in Germany use some high quality thermal heat sink material. But the RF deck's really easy to get to, very clean, as you can see there. So clearly I'm taking some shots of that, just some of the componentry there. This is version 1.3, obviously. See that? There's the LD MOSFETs again, and some filtering there. I'm just going to kind of, hey, this is kind of blurry right here, but this is multi-turn pot related, I'm assuming, to the bias preset before the amplifier shipped. So before the amplifier shipped, they either have a pair of the LDMOS devices that are matched, or they adjust the bias, the idle bias, I'm assuming, to spec here, and then they have put on some Loctite, right, to keep the green ham from messing around with that. But that's what that multi-turn pot there is. Oh, here's a better picture that's not all blurry. So you can see they've adjusted that at the factory. But there may be a need, right, to redo that if something were to go wrong. But a couple of shots of those. Here is the exciter attenuator, and I'll show some pictures later. I actually bought all 3 attenuators that RF-KIT is making available, and I think they're about $20 US, maybe $22 US each. And so Reinhardt, whoever assembled it, put in the 13 dB attenuator, which is likely going to get me legal output on most bands. I'm guessing around 40 to 50 watts or less. The 10 dB attenuator would get you 1.5 kW, I think around 15 to 30 watts, and then the 3 dB attenuator would get you there with like 5 watts or less. And no attenuator would do it with even less wattage, so you'd have to be really careful. Make sure you've got an exciter that you don't want to overdrive this thing. So I'll start off with the 13 dB attenuator, driving it with a K3S or a K3. Okay, another shot of that. Like some blurry close-up, sorry about that. A close-up of the directional coupler for the SWR bridge and power meter and all that stuff. Antenna tuner relays. I can't remember if these are the TR relays. I didn't look close enough. I have some brand new vacuum relays that are 12 volts. I may investigate replacing the TR relays eventually after I've kicked the tires on the amplifier, cut down on some of the noise. We'll see how it is. The antenna tuner shots. Yep. More shots there. Filtering. Band filters. I can't remember, is this 6 meters or I can't remember, 10 meters? I can't remember. A shot of the front, that's got to be the front intake for the main heatsink. Here's a good shot of the thickness of the copper heatsink, right? That's where the PCB and the LD MOSFETs are compressed down tight, right? The heatsink on the LD MOSFET and you can see the 13 dB attenuator. Same deal here, right? As you're dissipating the heat as you attenuate the power coming from your exciter. Good shot of that. This is just a peek down between the Arduino and the panel that separates the Arduino and the RF deck, right on the side that has the antenna tuner, right side from the front. More shots of the control PCB there. A shot of the 60mm fan for the power supply. This is the front side of the power supply as far as it's the front of the amplifier. Okay, so here is where the Raspberry Pi 3 bolts in, okay? And I've got some pictures that I'll show right at the very end where I found a nice aluminum case, which is kind of fun to customize these things. That's what's kind of cool about a kit. Where normally you would just bolt in with the standoffs, you just put the Raspberry Pi 3 here. But I have a nice little aluminum case that you can get for about 16 bucks on Amazon that will fit in here nicely, and you'll see that later. So these are just the cables prior to assembly. Bad shot of the RF deck there. Close up underneath, right next to the LDMOS devices. I'm just going to plow through here. Close up of the power connector there. Nice job on the soldering here. Clean. Again, plowing through here pretty quick, guys. Again, go to the website, take your time. Here's some shots at the bottom. Yada, yada, yada. Another shot of the right side, stood up here. Left side, front panel again. Duplicates here. Better light here on the back of the 7-inch LCD touchscreen. These are better shots than those ones I had at the first. There's the version. Shot from the top. Some kind of bigger shots. These would look good on your desktop. Here's the pictures of the additional pads, the attenuator tabs for the exciter. 3 dB, 10 dB. So you'd have to desolder that, put these in if you want to change the attenuator pads. And this is shipped with the amplifier. Here's a micro SD adapter to SD card. I believe you can update the image now over the internet. So pretty much here you'll be pulling the micro SD out and putting it in the Raspberry Pi 3 before you power on, which I'll find out here over the next week when I find time. Quit making videos. So here's the micro SD already preloaded with the Raspberry Pi 3 image. And I should mention there, I wanted to immediately go and buy a Raspberry Pi 3 Plus. The hardware has changed enough there to where the current image that the guys in Germany are using for the amplifier requires that you use a Raspberry Pi 3. So it'll save you like $5, right? So just make sure when you get the Raspberry Pi 3 that it's not the Plus. You will need the Raspberry Pi 3. Here's the cables unpackaged. This is the coax that will be used in the assembly. You know, self-describing there. Here's the hex countersunk screws for the part of the kit where you tap and drill the case screws. Again, this is a kit, right? The 95% of it's done. The other 5% allows us to avoid all the type acceptance, you know, gyrating and cost of that with the FCC. So I'm assuming that's just my conjecture. So these other screws are for other parts of the assembly. And here's the plug for the back of the amplifier, and this is an HDMI plug between the 7-inch display and the Raspberry Pi 3. And this is a USB cable that comes with it too. I'd heard there was they actually sent the extension for one of the fans, the front main 120mm fan, but I've got plenty of those kicking around. Close-ups. So there's all the hardware that comes inside the amplifier. There's the case. Last but not least, I plan on, I've got experience with a local guy that is powder coating. I will be powder coating the case to kind of a matte black finish, just because I want to. I mean, there's no need. But I think I can get that done for about $40 US. And so check back we'll see how quickly I get this off to the guy to get it powder coated. Others have done that too, so just some shots of the case cover and close-up of one of the feet on the bottom. Front panel with the cover just in place, it's not screwed in place yet. There's the amplifier, the protective screen still on the protective plastic here on the front of the LCD. Some more shots, shot of the back, the case on, and oh, so here's what you buy. So let's see here. Let me change screens, and I don't know if you're going to see this, but you'll want to join. After you spent some time on the RF-KIT website here. I'll put these links down into the descriptions. Here is the Groups IO forum that you'll want to join. There's actually two. There's a sub forum that discusses the image for the Raspberry Pi, but the main forum here, I'm looking at the messages. You'll want to spend a lot of time not only looking at the photos. I think my set of photos is a little more complete and high res. If there are other copious amounts of photos that are a little more detailed, I missed them. You want to go to the file section, go to the RF2K Plus area, and here you can see you can download the latest version of the manual. And also there's this fan dock here. So, and apologies on, yes, Mark, maybe Mark worked on the manual too. So November Uniform 6 X-Ray did a lot of work on determining the best fans. And so without getting crazy on that, here I'll just quickly show you the there's a bigger shot of the W4YN front panel that he has machined out, and it's a heavy plastic, so I'll figure out how to mount that the best way, whether it's screws or double-sided tape. I'll come up with a good way there. And this isn't anything that others haven't done. Here's the highly recommended DarkSide AP60. I got the non-PWM or pulse width modulation version. So there's two of those, right? There's some pictures of these later on. Here is the Raspberry Pi and the case that I'll show later on and talk about it. So I will be mounting the Raspberry Pi in this little case. It's already in there. So this is, you can see where the HD SC card is going to go, and then here's the 4 USBs and the RJ45, right? And the power on the side there, and yada yada yada. You could even have an amplifier that's like a Linux-based media player. I mean, it's pretty crazy, right? What you could do with this. It'd be kind of cool. There's lots of potential. So, and then the other fan, I got the Noctua 80 fan, 80 millimeter fan for the that mounts in the front. This is the fan that I think it ends up blowing air across the filter deck and the antenna tuner area there. Kind of cools the rest of the amplifier from that side. So those are the recommended fans. Look at that document, you'll see that. Let's see. Let's get back to the photos and be done with this crazy adventure here of pictures. Let's see. Okay, so literally this is what you buy. The minimum that you'll need to buy is a Raspberry Pi 3, 220 millimeter fans, and an 80 millimeter fan. And the cord, right? You're going to need your power cord and the plug for your country of origin for your 240 volt service, AC service. This is all documented in the document on the fans I just showed you. There's the model. That's the non-PWM version. I think the fans, these fans are nice fans. They weren't cheap though. Seems like they were 18 bucks US from Amazon, somewhere around there, maybe 20 bucks each. And the Noctua 80 millimeter was 15 or 16 bucks. Oh yeah, here's a picture of the fan, so this gives you an idea of what the fan looks like out of the box. Oh, and here's the Raspberry Pi 3. The little case that I showed you earlier, Came with these little mini heat sinks, so I threw them on the Raspberry Pi 3. I don't think the Raspberry Pi 3 is going to be doing anything spectacular as far as computing power, but it's nice. It came with a case, so I put them on there. It's certainly not going to hurt anything. The CPU can get hot, right, if you're going to do some other stuff on the single board computer here, the Raspberry Pi 3. Just some shots of the Raspberry Pi 3. HDMI, kind of blurry. My depth of field isn't great there. This is the bottom. They do have a little, I'm assuming this is a video chip off the top of my head here. That case that I bought, the case was around $16 or $17 too. It came with those little heat sinks. There's a better shot of that. So this little brass sticky on heatsink came with a case, so this is not included with the Raspberry Pi 3, nor is the case or these heatsinks included with the amplifier kit that's delivered from Germany. So here's the case that I was showing earlier, which I think is kind of a slick little idea, and I don't know how much shielding I would get out of this little aluminum case, but it looks nice and fits the purpose. So it actually, there's one screw that holds the Raspberry Pi in here where my cursor is, and what I did was I just took a pattern of the screws for the Raspberry Pi 3, which matches the standoffs coming from the bottom of the case of the amplifier, and you'll see that in a second here. As I get to the bottom of the case, there's a slot for the micro SD. Here's the top of the case with the the heat vent cover on top of the case, so the Raspberry Pi now is completely enclosed. And another angle here. You see the HDMI, audio, and micro USB to power the Raspberry Pi 3. 5-volt power there. So here's the bottom. So I actually drilled this out. So these holes here will match the standoffs. It's the exact same dimensions of a Raspberry Pi 3. And so I'll bolt this little case in on top of those standoffs. Make sure the bolts don't touch the bottom of the Raspberry Pi 3, which will be on the standoffs inside the case, and mount things up that way. So I think it's going to look pretty nice. So I know this is the last slide here. I did get some shots. If you go back up a directory on my website here, the photo gallery, if we go back up here, I've got a directory for the W4YN front panel, and I've got just some shots of that if you want to take a close look at that. So this is the front panel, actually just resting on top of the front of the amplifier when I had it removed. So shot of the right, shot of the left, and that's it. So if anybody actually makes it through the end of this video, hopefully you like the video. And I try to do videos once in a while. I'm getting a few subscribers. I don't get too crazy and fancy, but I try to provide some information. And again, look for the links to all the pictures, and I'll try to remember to put the links to the RF-KIT website and groups.io so you can join up there. But good luck with your 2K plus amplifier here from RF-KIT. Good stuff. Thanks, guys.